What my brother is saying is that this is that one moment when we all come together for the good of our children. God has been kind and gracious to us, blessed us with a lot of children, wonderful kids we have. And we have all turned up. As you can see, we are all here across government to ensure that our children get back to school safely and they learn well. And one question that kept coming up, and the leaders of the sector who are here raised questions about transport tomorrow and how that is going to be done tomorrow and the days to come. We've been working with our traffic police. The Inspector General Police has been with us in this meeting. But the Honorable Minister for Transport has been having meetings also focusing on this to ensure that our children are not stranded and that they are transported safely to schools tomorrow. And I would like to invite my brother James Macharia to make a comment on that aspect. CS Macharia, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Like you've heard, the transport sector is usually one of the key areas in terms of not just transmission of the virus, but also in terms of mitigation measures. So for us, at the very beginning, we determined that 90% of all the traveling we have in this country is through the public transport. And so we cannot discuss about our kids being in school without discussing about how they'll get to school. And so because of that, in the last 2 days, we've been engaging the key stakeholders in the public transport sector, including the Matatu Owners Association, with whom we have agreed that tomorrow they will have very robust measures put in place. We are aware we are still in the festive season, and this is a season when we have a lot of accidents. The last thing we want to do is that before the kids get to school, we have these, God forbid, accidents along the way. So we've agreed with the chairman of Matatu Owners Association 3 things. Number 1, all the drivers will be tested for alcohol. We shall not allow anybody getting into those vehicles who has been drinking in the previous 1 or 2 days. Secondly, we have also made sure that these drivers will not drive long distances, because by doing so, they get fatigued and they cause accidents along the way. Thirdly, we have agreed that they will not hike the fares. We appreciate that and recognize the fact that parents are coming from a very difficult period whereby they are constrained economically. The last thing we want is them to be overcharged in terms of the kids going back to school. So in terms of Matatu sector, that's what we've agreed. Secondly, to complement the Matatu sector, we have looked at the railway system which we have. We have the SGR, we have the MGR. And what we agreed with the Kenya Railways management is that tomorrow being Monday, when the kids are going back to school, we shall double the capacity of our inter-county trains. Every day, in normal days, we have 1 train coming from Mombasa and 1 train coming from Nairobi. We have made sure that now we have 2 pairs, 2 trains coming from Mombasa and 2 trains coming from Nairobi. And these trains will be inter-county. We want to emphasize that because our kids will be leaving Nairobi, for example, going to Machakos schools, going to Mutito Aderi schools, and so forth. Tomorrow, we shall not have express train. All trains coming to Nairobi and vice versa, they'll be actually stopping in the 7 stations along Mombasa-Nairobi highway. Also, we have looked at the MGR. You're aware recently we did rehabilitate the line from Nairobi to Nanyuki. And tomorrow at 9 a.m., we shall have a train ready from here to Nairobi, from Nairobi, all the way to Nanyuki, which will be carrying about 1,500 of our students and their parents. And then lastly, also we have directed Kenya Railways tomorrow to make sure we have full capacity of our intra-city commuter rail. We have 20 trains running tomorrow to make sure that students going around in the Nairobi metropolis have no problem. That will allow us to move at least 60,000 passengers majority of them will be children tomorrow, to make sure they get to school safely and on time. Thank you.
Thanks. Finally, before I invite CS Kawe, I need to emphasize this. My friends from the media and fellow citizens, it's very important that we understand that the government has been spending time on planning for our children and planning for the education sector. A lot of investment has gone into this, and if we had time to allow, for example, the CEO of TSC, she would tell you about how our teachers are now covered, and the fact that their cover also includes if they are infected by corona, their cover has been enhanced in that kind of manner. We have actually put all our students in secondary schools on a medical cover by NHIF, those ones who are in boarding schools, be sure that in the event, and we pray that it doesn't happen, they get into some challenges, they're already covered when they're in school. And so many things that we have done. The document that is going to be circulated to you by the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Education, is very detailed. Please look at it very carefully, and you will see that His Excellency the President has lived up to the promises he has made in terms of his focus and the level of investment and energy he is spending on ensuring that our children are attended to, addressed, and that the education sector runs very effectively. And a lot more is going to be done. And that's why you can see we are all mobilized, and we're here to just focus on nothing else this week but ensuring that our children go back to school effectively. We will do our very best to ensure that this happens. We are putting up a joint command center that is integrated, brings together all the institutions, including the Council of Governors, so that we'll be receiving information from across the country in real time where there are issues that need to be addressed, and all agencies are mobilized to address them in real time as we move along. And this command center will be, at the Ministry of Interior, but with representation from the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, Council of Governors, the TSC, and all the critical stakeholders, including the Private Schools Association. So we want to have an inclusive conversation and act together as we ensure that we take care of our children and that resumption of learning in our schools happens effectively. And because we got here as a result of a health challenge, I'm now going to invite my brother and my colleague, our Cabinet Secretary for Health, CS Kawe, to make some remarks before